Gregg Berhalter for the last 4 years. Gregg Berhalter has been the coach of the United States men's national team. And why this is significant is because the team failed to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. So, Gregg, when you took this team over, there was anger, disillusionment from people. And as you're about 4 months out from leaving for Qatar. And I just discovered moments ago that you can make a change up till November 14th. Somebody gets hurt, you can make a change. You would prefer that you kind of have the chemistry going. But when you took it over, and what was the first thing you said? Okay, this has got to change.
Yeah, for us, it was doing a deep dive on both what's happening on the field and what's happening off the field. And we knew the strengths of Americans. We knew that the tighter we can get this group, the more cohesive we can get this group, the more successful we'll be on the field. So it was twofold. It was how do we address what's happening off the field with team culture, and how do we get better on the field?
Gregg, is it harder for American players because the greatest leagues are overseas? So if you have a great domestic player, so you have Pulisic is playing for Chelsea, and you've got Weston's playing for Juventus, Sergio's playing here. So our players, to get the highest rewards athletically and financially, are going to leave. So they're splintered all over Europe, not even our country. Did you find it a great challenge as a European, an English player? He's playing in the English Premier League. And it's easy. It feels like it's always the chemistry is easier. Is chemistry a dynamic among United States men's national teams that is underrated, that's harder than people think? From one side, yes, I completely agree. When you have guys playing all over the world, logistically, it's difficult just to keep them tied together. But the one thing I know is the best thing in camp is the first day when players arrive, and they're coming from all different countries, and they come into camp, and you just see the joy that they have on their faces to be together again and to be with fellow Americans. And that's a great moment. So I think that they step right back into it, and the team cohesion's there right away. But it is common when you think about countries like Brazil, probably one of the best soccer playing nations in the world, right? All their players play all over the world also. So it's not an uncommon problem. Your group is England. Many believe they're as deep as any World Cup team. Wales, you'd be favor over. Iran, not sure who the coach is, but one of their better teams. So let's talk about England. As you scout them and look at them, is it the best England club you've seen in a while?
When I look at them position by position, they're like four deep in every single position.
That's what people are saying. They're like an SEC football team. It's just all pros.
It's crazy. And, the total value of their squad is over $1 billion.
Wow.
So we're playing against $1 billion team. And, but what we know can happen in sport is once you're on the field, anything can happen. And that's what we're banking on. We're banking on, we're going to be up for that game. We're going to have the whole country behind us. And why not beat them?
This is the most unique team ever. Generally, American teams in my life, and I'm in my 50s, we were great at goal. It's a hands country. We've always got a good to excellent global elite level goalie. Now we have Turner, Steffen. We're kind of undecided, it feels like to me, at the position we've been strongest at. Now I look at that and think, good. Because our skill is greater than I ever remember it. Our youth, our energy, our skill, our coaching, I love. But at goal, it's a little unsettled. That's my takeaway. Is that fair? Who today would you go with?
Yeah, so the byproduct of having young goalkeepers and having guys that are just starting off in their careers is that they're not established, and you don't have that body of work that you can go on. So it's challenging. For the coaching staff, it's challenging. Matt Turner just made his move to Arsenal. He's in a fantastic spot, but we're watching anxiously to see if he's going to get game time. Zack Steffen was at the best club in the world in Man City, and he just wasn't getting enough game time. But at a very high-profile club, and I think in those environments, they definitely have learned and improved.
You've got Destas playing in Barcelona. You've got guys in EPL, La Liga, all over the world. What is the advantage that you can get playing in the top leagues in the world that you can't get in America? Like, what is the sense? Is it the pressure?
Is it the intensity of competition? What is because now, this has never happened in my life. We got guys at Juventus, Dortmund, Chelsea, Barcelona, Leeds, everywhere. In my life, we'd have 2 or 3 guys sprinkled in. What is the advantage to that?
When you're playing in those environments, when you're playing for clubs like Man City or Chelsea or Barcelona or Juventus, you can't lose any game you're in. Every game you're expected to win. So with that comes a tremendous amount of pressure. And because of those high expectations, the squads are extremely deep. So if a player, for example, Christian Pulisic, if he's not performing well, he knows there's someone behind him ready to take his position. So there's pressure both from the fan expectations about the results and then from a performing standpoint because the squads are so deep and there's so many good players at those clubs.
This is the youngest World Cup team, yours. Average age is 24, which shocks me because many of your stars are 21 and 22. Could the argument be made, if you get out of the group stage, that's a win? It's not a World Cup winning team, but if you can get out of the group stage that includes England, a very good Iran team, that would be seen as a massive success.
The way I look at it, Colin, is there's 2 different tournaments here. The first tournament is a group stage tournament, right? It's 4 teams, the top 2 go. And you earn the right to play in the knockout tournament. And we know once you're in a knockout tournament, anything can happen. But we have a difficult group, and our first priority is how do we get out of our group? How do we earn the right to play in this knockout tournament?
So what I'm about to say is just aesthetically what I've seen, and I could be totally wrong. Call me out. I'm thick-skinned. So I always said to soccer fans it was always the coach's fault. And I've said throughout all of sports is that the game plan will dictate what a coach thinks of his personnel. And when we played a lot of top international teams, we played a more defensive style. I see with this group, and maybe Gregg Berhalter joining us, by the way, if you're listening on radio, I see with this group more confidence in you to attack, leave yourself vulnerable on the back end. That said, when you play England, would you approach it like that? I can see with Iran and Wales, you feel like more of an attacking coach. You could get in trouble very quickly against England with that. How do you attack with your youth a team like England, who many subscribe is the best, deepest team in the entire World Cup?
It's about balance. I think, especially against England, we know that we can attack them, we can be aggressive against them, but we have to be well balanced because they have huge threats on the counterattack. We haven't come up with a specific game plan yet for this game. There's 2 sides of it. One side of it is, do we sit back? Do we be passive, let them come to us and then counter them? Or do we apply more pressure? Are we the aggressor? Do we really want to get after them? And, we're continuing to study the tape and seeing their strengths and weaknesses, and then we'll come up with an appropriate game plan.
In my eyes, Pulisic is now become a target. You can see teams physically going after him. Like, this is commonplace.
Yep.
And, in hockey, Wayne Gretzky always had the protector. Do you worry, because Pulisic is highly energized and he can be a very emotional guy. And as I watch over the last year, people are taunting and poking and they're trying to get him worked up. What are the discussions your team, and Pulisic have about what appears to be a fairly obvious trend?
Well, first of all, we want to take advantage of those set pieces when he does get fouled because he is getting fouled often. But for us, it's about, continuing, especially in difficult field conditions. We want him passing the ball and moving. I think he's got such great quickness, such great speed. We want to take advantage of that. And then when he is getting fouled a lot, guys stick up for him. There was in the Orlando game against Panama, Luca De La Torre's getting into it. Weston always gets into it. Kellen Acosta always has his back. And that's what really makes this team special. It's a group of guys that really care about each other, really care about our country, and are really motivated to do well at this World Cup.
I said I don't know if I was on a podcast or here, I said I feel like Clint Dempsey played angry, and I liked it about him. A little bit of an ass kicker, and I thought, do we need one on this team? I know our skill's high. Is that a missing piece? Or do you have that? Who is our Dempsey?
So Clint has had a fantastic career, a long international career. We don't have any players right now that are at the stage that he was at in his career when he was playing with the national. We have young players. So their identity is being created as we speak. And this World Cup will help form their identity and what we think of them. But when I think of guys that can play that type of role, Tyler Adams certainly comes to mind. He doesn't take anything from anyone. Weston McKennie is another guy who.
Now, Weston's got a real chip. I like that.
Exactly. Yunus Musa is a guy that just unbalances people and is, exceptional on and off the ball. So we have that type of group, and the beauty of the World Cup is the public's going to get to see what we have and really understand these guys as players and personalities.
What's the advantage to youth?
So I think people talk about inexperience. We're an inexperienced team, we're a young team, right? That's a disadvantage. But if you think about every other country that's been in the World Cup before, they're going to be comparing the Qatar World Cup to past World Cups, and this is a completely different animal, right? The whole World Cup is in one city. The teams get together a week before the tournament. Normally, they have a month lead into the World Cup. So the teams that can adapt and are flexible are going to be the ones that can really shine in this tournament. And youth, I think about, us being a fit team, a team that recovers really well because we're young.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so we're going to use youth as our advantage.
Well, there is a weather situation. Brazil was very obvious. When you would start these matches and guys' uniforms were clinging to them, it's like a rainforest. I think about that all the time, is that you have a chance to be the fittest team and one of the more skilled teams. How do you think your team views itself to now? Because whether you're starting a business or have a team, self-identity, if I said, here's a pen and paper, give me one sentence to describe yourself to your players, how do you think they view themselves?
I know that over the last 3 years we've been developing our identity, and I know it's a group that's relentless. We don't give up when we're on the field. We keep fighting, we keep pressing, we keep playing. We're brave. We don't fear any opponent, but we respect our opponents. And it's made up of diverse team members. When you look at the group of players, we have such a diversity of personalities, of sizes, of attributes. It's really a good group of guys to be around. And again, for me, one of the most exciting things about the World Cup is that the U.S. public will have a chance to see these guys and see what they're really about. And that's going to be a fun part.
Gregg Berhalter is the coach of the United States men's national team. Is there ever pressure? Because Max Britos is a friend of mine, and I was just watching a tweet. He said, United States women's team remains the global leader. They're kind of pivoting to some new players. Is there any pressure that they're so dominant and you miss the cup? Is that discussed? Do you sense that?
No, I think that everything that the women's team does is exciting. Every time they win a World Cup, it's exciting. When we can have, the United States on the top of the stage and winning the World Cup and holding that World Cup trophy up, it's an amazing feeling, whether that's men or women. So, it's been amazing watching the women's team be dominant in world soccer. And our hope is that they continue to do so, and our hope is that we continue to rise amongst the ranks in men's soccer.
When you got this job, you were at the Columbus Crew, and now you coach the national team. Are soccer fans in America realistic?
I think so. I think that
there's a couple Looney Tunes out there on my Twitter account.
I mean, what I'd say is, it's a good question, but what I'd ask you are any fans realistic?
That's a good comeback on that. I think you won that one right there. The answer, of course, Greg, is no. But you know what? It is a privilege to have pressure. It's a privilege to me. What's the thing that surprised you about coaching our young lads? Like the moment, has there been a moment you've thought, wow, this is way cooler than I ever envisioned?
It's just the whole process has been amazing for me. I think the one surprise, I guess, was, just taking over after not qualifying, like the work that we needed to do to gain the public's trust again. And, the public wasn't going to be fully at ease until we qualified for that World Cup. No matter what we did leading up to the qualification, they weren't going to be pleased. And that was something that was a little bit surprising. But, now our next goal after qualifying, the next goal is to perform well at the World Cup.
How often do you talk to Christian Pulisic? He's a busy guy.
We talk often. whether that's in text or in phone. We have a great relationship, a close relationship. The whole staff is there supporting him. And, what I've been impressed with Christian in particular is his growth as a person over these last 3 years. And, we have to understand how difficult it is to play for Chelsea and what pressure he has as being the American superstar. And he handles it with such dignity and grace, and he's such a good person, a good teammate. And he's really gotten to a point where he's embraced the struggle. For a superstar, he's really embraced that he's going to have to go back and compete at Chelsea for game time, and he's okay with that. And when you have your superstar with that mentality, you're in good shape.
Who's going to surprise us on your team?
Oh, who's going to surprise us?
That was a good question.
Yeah.
Joey, did you see that? That was journalism at work.
That is.
Craig.
Good reaction.
I hope the whole team does, but I think Yunus Musa is a guy that's going to surprise the world with his performance at the World Cup.
You said he's got a little chip, a little tough guy.
He's a tough guy, but he puts people on skates. When you see him play, I mean, you can't get the ball from him. He's an interesting guy to watch.
What a pleasure. Can't wait for it. You leave in about 4 months in Qatar. You can make changes up, I was told, by your staff, November 14th. You'd ideally not want to make a change, but if an injury happens, I can't wait. I'm so excited for it.
Are you coming over?
No, I have this thing called a radio show that ties me down.
Do it from Qatar. You can do it.
Well, tell you what I would do in the morning. 2 a.m, I'd be doing a show. I will watch every second of it. My mom, I've said this before, I can remember watching Johan Cruyff when I was overseas as a kid.
Yep.
And my mom bought me a little soccer game over in Lancashire at a little store. And I grew up in the Northwest, which, as you know,
Yep.
it's a great soccer region in America. So I feel lucky. Clive Charles, the late Clive Charles, the Seattle Sounders, the Timbers. Gregg, it's a pleasure. Good luck to you. Can't wait. And I appreciate you taking time. You're a busy guy.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.